Hey, everyone, for episode 66 of the Rental Roundtable, we had on Jake Rockefeller. He's the CEO of RigSource. He's been there 13 years. They're a niche rental company based in Illinois. We talked about his background, how he kind of came in it from the finance controlling perspective, moved up to the CEO level. He talked about the different shifting industry mindsets from ownership towards rental, how niche and specialty is about 10 or 20 years behind general tool rental. A lot of what they're doing is calling on customers, convincing them that why they need to rent in the first place, which is very different than general tool companies. Talked about what it's like to build a niche rental company and the challenges and opportunities they face, and talked about the importance of data systems and where this is all moving for the next 3 to 5 years. So, really great episode with Jake. Hope you guys enjoy. All right, guys, welcome to the Rental Roundtable, episode number 66. We have on Jake Rockefeller. He's the CEO of RigSource. Jake, welcome to the show.
Hey, thanks for having me, Kyle. It's great to be here.
Thanks for coming on today. I think of 66. I think of Execute Order 66 from Star Wars. Any Star Wars fans listening? I don't know if you are a fan, but and that's like the whole thing. Execute Order 66. So here we are, episode
There you
66. So,
go.
uh, anyways, Jake, thanks for coming on today. So you're CEO of RigSource. You've been there for over 12 years,
Yep.
uh, based in Illinois. Love if you want to kind of just talk to your background. How did you get into the rental industry?
Sure.
Where you are now, and maybe even what is RigSource? People are listening and never heard of RigSource before.
Yeah. So I got into this industry. I'm an accountant by trade, CPA. Started off in public accounting, and always been passionate about equipment. Big equipment. As a kid, I would spend my summers sitting on job sites, looking at the operators, and I'd spend a lot of time there. So always been passionate about equipment. I knew that along my journey in accounting, I wanted to really get into a company that built something cool and did something cool in the construction industry. My dad was in the construction industry. He was a home builder. So I was around it my whole life. And it was something that I was really passionate about. Plus, I wanted to do something that I was passionate about. I wanted to do something that, I loved. Right. And knowing that the public accounting road could lead me into a company and starting off as a controller and kind of overseeing the books and things and the operations, that's really what I was going for. And I happened to meet the founders of RigSource out, and we engaged in a conversation, and I asked them about their business, and they told me what they did. I had a friend that worked at RigSource at that time, and was talking about all the cool things that he was doing and the drill rigs he was selling, and it sounded very interesting. And when I learned about the business, I learned that one of the hurdles that they had is they had a bookkeeper, and she was great, right? But when you get to next steps and you want to go to the next level, you have to look at data differently. You have to have systems and processes in place to really make decisions off the data and understand what it's telling you. So we had those conversations, and it made sense for me to come in and interview, and shortly after that I started. And when I came in here to RigSource, I did notice that the systems were okay, right? But it was how the data was being translated, and there was really no information that was coming from the data. Nobody was really looking at it and paying attention to it, and it wasn't really organized in a way that would even present findings or solutions that could come from them. So it started off started off as the controller. And from that point, it was a small family business, right? And you have an opportunity in those types of settings to do more. And you see departments that need more resources and they're hitting their head. And so I was able to get into parts and service, and learned a lot about manufacturing and job costing and how to account for things so you know what you're truly making when that product is sold, right? That's a big hurdle that some companies face is they don't allocate their resources to the jobs properly, and they're not accounting for everything. And at the end of the day, it looks like when the widget or whatever you're selling is sold, you're making good money, but that's not reality, right? So you sit back and you wonder, where's all the money going? I thought we were making money, and in reality, you're not making as much as you thought. So, learned a lot from that aspect of it. I was fortunate enough to work with a group that allowed me to dip my toe into a lot of different departments, work closely with a lot of the managers. And from that point forward, just kept growing within the organization and went from controller to VP of finance and operations, overseeing all the finance and operations, all the banking, all that good stuff. And here we are after 12 years, right? So, to answer your question about what RigSource does, Kyle, RigSource is a rental company in the geotechnical and environmental drilling space. So it's a very small subset of the overall construction industry. And one thing that I heard a while back is the University of Texas slogan. Their slogan is "What starts here changes the world." And I view that in our industry. I really like that
Mhm.
slogan for our industry because our machines and the contractors using them, right? They're at the forefront of the construction phase. So there are the machines that we rent and the drillers that run them, they're on projects sometimes 2 to 3 to 4 years ahead of when construction actually breaks ground. So by the time they determine what's underneath the ground and what they need to do and how they need to engineer it and to get the proper permits in place and whatever it takes to do it, right? It could be years, after our machines have hit the site. So that's a slogan that I like. And
Yeah, I like it. You
right.
mentioned earlier you wanted to work somewhere that you're passionate about or somewhere that what would you say you're passionate about now as the CEO of RigSource? What gives you that passion today?
What really gives me the passion is in our industry, and what we might touch on this is the path to ownership in our industry has typically just been through acquisition, just an outright purchase, right?
Mhm.
Spend the money, go get financing, and do it. What I'm most passionate about is educating our market that there's many ways to acquire machines, because what I've learned is that drillers don't always need machines. What they really need is a hole in the ground. So, what's the most efficient, profitable, effective way to put a hole in the ground and get the information that you need? Right. And that's where my passion really lies right now. Of course, it's centered around the equipment and new advances in the equipment, but it's really just educating the market that there's many different ways to put a hole in the ground. Right. And that's what they need. And they need it
Yeah,
done properly.
you help people solve problems. You earlier you said you kind of got connected to the RigSource people. I don't think you told them where, right? Was it St. Patrick's Day, Chicago? Some beers involved, maybe. That's how
Yeah,
you.
it happened to be on a St. Patrick's Day in Illinois. It was 75 degrees out. The sun was out. Everyone was wearing shorts and flip-flops. And yeah, the owners and I were drinking green beer and catching up. It was a great day. It was a great
Did
day.
you get introduced to them, or did you just happen to just run into them there?
No, I was introduced to them. Yeah, I had a friend that worked at RigSource. He was their sales director at the time.
Yeah,
He introduced me to them, and
yeah,
and I would talk to my friend about all the work that he was doing and the jobs he was on and the equipment that he was selling. I'm like, wow, this is a really cool industry because prior to then, I never knew about the drilling industry. Be completely
yeah.
honest with you, I never knew about it. I knew about general construction industry, but
Right.
drilling it's not a focal point of the construction process. So,
Yeah, I wonder if it was 50 degrees and rainy. I don't know if you would have felt as strong. You're one of those things that perfect weather, perfect day. You're like, I like these
yeah,
Big Source
the
guys.
sta the stars aligned that day, definitely.
I
Yeah.
think these things. I don't know. They end up working out for people, right? Other thing I was going to mention. You went to Northern Illinois University back in 2011 when I was in college. I interned for a congressman on Capitol Hill. He went to NIU.
Okay.
Randy Holcrand, if you know the name, he's
Okay.
a NIU grad, but he had a big Northern Illinois football helmet in his office that he was very
Yeah.
proud of. So
Yeah.
there's the one NIU connection I have.
Absolutely. Yeah, back then, I think still now they have a great accounting school, right? So
Yeah,
it was definitely a good school for that.
yeah.
I'll
I
say
think
that.
he was a lawyer at some point. I don't know if they have a law school, but anyways, there's my NIU connection.
Okay.
I appreciate you kind of go through your background. You came up through the finance arm. I'm curious, like, do you find more passion in the equipment side of things, or your finance accounting background? Like, what really gets you really excited?
I can speak the finance and accounting background language.
Yeah,
There's
yeah,
there's no question there. And at times, right, I'm drawn to that side of the business. especially as we're expanding or we're looking at different things we're doing, right? We're having close conversations with the bank. That's our number one partner in this business. And it's extremely capital intensive, as most rental companies are. So having a really close bond with the bank is a very good thing. I tend to I enjoy those meetings. I really do. But my focus these days, we have a very strong accounting team and controller in place. That side's pretty well taken care of. I still oversee it, and pay attention to the details. It's extremely important for business owners to pay attention to the details still, and get into the weeds. If you don't, you're not sure what's going to come on the other end of that, right? So it's very important that I still stay connected. But right now, my passion is really just working with all the team members on the right equipment to bring in, right? What's going to be the best for our contractors that we work with, and it's more so the market in general and the equipment that we provide and the solutions that we provide. One thing that we talk about here at RigSource is when we're going out and we're talking to people and we're talking to drillers and contractors, it's they need to understand that we are an extension of their operations team.
Mm,
And what I mean by that is in our industry with some of the niche products, it's difficult to acquire certain parts. Some parts are legacy parts that have been phased out. They're out there somewhere.
mm,
So what we always say is leave that up to us. Just let us know what you need. Let us know how we can help. We're the experts at doing that. And you go back to running your business because that's what you like doing and that's what's most beneficial to you. We'll break down these barriers on the operation side that you have, no problem. That's our passion. Your
mm,
passion is putting holes in the ground.
mm.
So that's
So that extra mile, customer service, I imagine that helps differentiate against some of your competitors as an independent, right? Being able to say, "We are an extension of your operations team." That's gotta be pretty powerful sales pitch to people who are used to not getting great customer service all the time, right?
absolutely, absolutely. And in the rental industry, it doesn't matter what industry you're in rentals and what products you specialize in, that is paramount these days. It is absolutely paramount because contractors are looking for a rental partner, not just
Mm.
somebody to transact with on a vendor basis. They need a true rental partner, somebody in their business that understands the challenges that they face on a day-to-day basis, right? Is there when they need them and can respond quickly. Execution is key.
So how do you build that culture and get those people? Because what you're saying is, "Hey, we're gonna be an extension of your operations team." Well, that sounds like a lot of work, right? That sounds like I gotta be proactive. I gotta, to go the extra mile. If you are a mediocre employee, you may not wanna do those things, right? I sort of wanna be the, "What's the minimum I gotta do to get paid?" sort of mindset. There's a lot of, the workforce in the United States who maybe
Yeah.
shares that. How do you build that culture of people who are gonna have a high bar and bring their best self every day?
Well, it starts with finding employees that set the bar high for themselves. What we talk about is, the rig source will give employees all the resources they need to succeed, whatever those resources are, right? But what we look for is self-motivated individuals that
Mm,
want to go out there and want to be the best that they can be. In our industry, it's important that you find people that can speak the drilling language. It's like we've talked about. It's a niche market. So our best folks that are out there, they were previously drillers. They've been around drill sites.
mm.
They can speak that language because they know first and foremost the challenges that the contractors face on a day-to-day basis. But all equipment breaks. There's no question. All equipment, things happen and things break. But how you respond and your speed and agility to responding to them and knowing the right levers to pull, that's what's most important. And that's what we look for is folks that can speak that language.
Have you found it hard to find talented people like that? And how do you
It
find
is
those people?
challenging. Yeah, no, it is challenging. It is challenging. It's not an ad on a recruiting site. It's more than that. It's networking through the
Mm,
industry, and it's just always keeping the door open, right? We get a lot of folks that we meet that call us and say, "Hey, we met you at a trade show. We really like what you're doing. I think I can add value to your organization for these reasons." And we love those calls. Those
Mm.
are the best ones because putting an ad out in Indeed or something else, it's
It's the
difficult to find those
Wild
folks.
West.
It is. It is.
And I've heard people talk about, like, and with investors or relationships, it's not like these dots, but it's a line, so you get to know people over a period of time, right? So they meet you at the trade show, stay connected, make a good impression, follow up every 6 months,
Yeah,
job opens up, you're top of their mind, right? That's how you really find great people.
absolutely. We have a few hires, a few employees here that came on to RigSource through that channel.
And,
So
from an industry perspective, are you ever hiring people outside of the industry, people who are self-motivated, they've got high upside? How do you think about the industry experience, importance when you're hiring folks?
industry experience on the front lines, when I say front lines, out on drill sites,
Yeah.
is very important. It is very important. It's not impossible for an industry outsider to come in and excel because it all depends on how much work they're willing to put in at home on weekends learning about it, right? So a self-motivated individual that wants to take the bull by the horns and do that, they will succeed. There's no question. But we like to hire on the front lines industry professionals that understand it. In terms of the other side of the business, the operations, the service side, there's not a bunch of people out there that are used to working on drill rigs that know what they are. Typically, when you bring a drill rig into a hydraulic shop or it's a spaceship. You bring it into any yellow iron dealer, they don't really know what they're dealing with. It's the same. It's hydraulics and electric and gearboxes. It's the same, but it's different. So I don't really like using that term, but that's the best way I can describe it.
I like the spaceship analogy. It probably is like, what is this thing? And I think, there's pros and cons to being a very niche space. Like the pros, you have less competition, you can dominate more. The cons would be it's probably really hard to find people who really understand your niche, which is why retention probably becomes even more important for you guys. I mean,
Absolutely.
how do you think about the employee retention side? How do you once you find these great people with self motivation and they're really talented, they know the space. How do you keep them from leaving for competitors?
You have to take care of them. You have to keep the wagon full, right? With new
Mm,
products. You have to stay innovative. It's not just do the same as last year. You have to keep pushing the envelope to keep everybody engaged.
mm. So what you didn't say was pay people more money, more pizza parties. What you're saying is like push the bar as a company level, and people who want to take on that challenge will be excited to keep working.
Exactly. Look, if we have to have pizza parties are great, cookouts are great, but if that's our motivating factor to keep people, then we're probably not doing things right.
Mm.
If that's all we have to do, and we have to
Your
continuously do that.
your best people, they want to come because they believe in the mission and the challenge of what you're building, and
Exactly.
that's why they show up. And if the people are showing up at the pizza party, it's the wrong person, anyways.
Right. Right.
Yeah. I
Yeah.
love that. I think, because I asked that question to other people, and people will say you gotta give them, extra money and, I'm not saying you shouldn't, and those things aren't important, but, like, I love what you said. The most important thing is you gotta raise the bar and keep them challenged and engaged, and that is what will drive people to come up show up every day and every year and stay engaged.
Absolutely. Because those folks that we're talking about, they don't want a job, they want a career.
Mm,
There's two distinctions there, right? So giving them a career is what they really want. And a career that they can continue to learn in.
mm.
We're learning every day. We have a learning culture here at RigSource. It's one of our core values. Keep learning.
It's
So
the job and a career, and even above that is being part of something bigger than yourself, whatever that is. For people who work at our company, they like technology and then the latest technology and building mission critical software, right? For other people, at RigSource, it's something different. But I think the other thing people I've thought about is people want to work somewhere they're proud. They're proud to show up every day, and a lot of times, like one way to make sure people feel proud is when you're winning in your market. If you have
that's
a
right.
great performing company and you're winning and you're the market leader, A players want to work with other A players, and Nick Saban talks about that a lot. And they don't want to work with B players. They won't tolerate that, right? So that makes it even more important for the people who show up for the pizza parties, and that's what drives them. They can really poison your culture, and you really got to take care of that, right?
Absolutely. Absolutely. That has to be addressed immediately.
Yeah. Well, thanks for sharing that. I want to talk about sort of some of the shifting industry mindsets that maybe you've noticed. Maybe away from traditional ownership towards more of a rental model. Uh, Tell me about that transition since you've been in rental, I guess, 13 years or so. How has that
Yeah.
changed, and where do you think that's moving as an industry?
Yeah, in our industry, I'd say this is across the board. There's contractors that they wear equipment ownership kind of as a badge of honor, and it's a pride thing, you know. And what we're really trying to do is say that's great. There's always going to be those staples of equipment that you deploy daily, weekly, monthly that makes sense to own. Absolutely. But here's another solution, right? And our mission is to show the real value of rentals in a space that has predominantly been send the money and acquire the rig that way. So it's not as easy as in terms of our go to market strategy. We're not calling on customers and contractors that have 50 rental pieces out on their sites currently. We're
Mm,
calling on contractors that have never thought about renting a drill rig before.
mm,
So it's a different it's different. And there's different tactics that we have to deploy, right? But a lot of it just comes through knowledge, sharing the knowledge, sharing the data, putting dollarized figures on the value that they'll receive from renting versus owning. And you have to look at everything. You have to look at uptime. You have to look at how much that uptime costs you or downtime in that regard. How much does downtime cost you? What does it look like through the lens of their client when you're down, right? What does it look like to acquire spare parts these days? Lead times have changed. How costly is it to do that? Is there a technician that's close by or on staff that can handle these repairs? That's a challenge with a lot of our contractors these days. Many of them
so,
don't have their own technicians.
mm.
So where do they go for repairs? They go to repair shops that look at these rigs as spaceships. So what's the throughput going to be coming out of their repair shop? So it's all those things. There's dollars and cents that can be assigned to each one of those buckets versus here's a rental rate and here's what happens if your rental goes down. What we're trying to do is fix the price for contractors on a monthly basis to say, this is what you're banking on, account for this rental number, maybe some mob and demob fees, transportation, right? But aside from that, that's your number. There's the challenges of what happens if this and down days and extra repairs and third party repairs, those go out the window. So it's really educating the market on that.
And interesting, you guys are calling contractors who own equipment, not contractors who rent equipment. 'Cause a lot of rental companies are trying to fight off the nationals, and they're going after people they know they rent. Why did you make that decision to say, "Hey, we're not going to go after the people who are already renting. We're going to go after people who don't even know rental's an option, and we're going to win that customer."
Trust me, we do call on folks in our industry that rent
Yeah.
equipment that are used to renting. And
Mhm.
they're used to renting drill rigs from Rig Source. Those are our but the I'd say 60%, 60% of the drilling market is not used to renting drill rigs. They're just not. They
Mm.
might be used to renting other things. They've probably rented a skid steer or a mini X at some point, but they're not used to renting drill rigs.
What do you think the rental penetration is for drill rigs? Because the American Rental Association would say across all of the US and Canada, rental penetration is around 60% or so. What do you think that is for drill rigs? Much lower?
Much lower, much lower. Yeah.
And
I
how is
can't
that
put
how's that how do you think that's trending, right? So the in rental in the US going up like 1 percentage every year, 61%, 62%. Do you think in drill rigs it's moving up faster than that or is it also about that pace?
it's moving upwards, but about at that pace, I would say. Yeah. There hasn't been it's not a hockey stick where all of a sudden
Yeah.
the light bulb goes on and it's totally shifted. But I'd say it's about at that pace.
But do you feel like you are, if we look over the last 10 years, do you feel like you're seeing a transition, at least modestly, people moving towards rental and openness towards rental?
Absolutely. Absolutely. And the more that we educate the market on the benefits of it, we'll see that continue to climb.
What do you think if you had to simplify all these reasons, right? Around like there's a fixed price, you know what you're paying, and you have, you're fixing a spaceship, so at least you'll know that you guys would fix it. If there's like one thing that's driving that rental penetration up, what do you think that is? Is it a mindset shift, or people are just more used to not owning everything in the United States anymore? Like, what do you think is driving all this?
Flexibility. I think what a lot of it comes
Mm,
down to is the flexibility. The ability to scale up when you need to, scale down, uh, not having the burden of depreciation on your books every day. You know,
yeah,
depreciation shows up to work every day, whether you like it or not. It's there.
yeah,
So
yeah.
what I really think it is flexibility. Folks in the general construction industries, they see the true benefit of that, right? Turn it on, it's a variable cost at that point. Variable costs for businesses are
That
great.
that fits into your, and obviously you do more business, you goes up. And I think even for like software companies, you go back before the cloud, you used to have to manage and buy the servers and run all of that. And now with Amazon Web Services, you pay a monthly bill, and as you do more volume, more features, it's kind of scales up. And we're happy to pay that because that means our revenue is going up too. So we've seen that from a software perspective, like in some sense, we're renting server space, which is what we are doing, right? And
Yeah,
that makes me feel much better as a business owner, and it makes more sense. The flexibility is huge.
yeah. And what we tell the contractors that we work with is don't say no to projects. You don't have to say no because you don't have the equipment.
Mm,
If you have a driller that's available that can run the equipment and tackle that job, turn it on. Turn the rental arm on and maintain that relationship with that customer. You don't have to say no. You can take on jobs that you never thought you were able to take on before through
mm.
renting.
I think, I mean, in a lot of areas, like people are moving more towards access versus ownership. I think as American mindset is very ownership. But if you, we've other episodes we've talked about what it looks like in Europe and Asia, and rental penetration is much higher,
Yeah,
80%, 85% maybe. So even the U.S. is even behind where it could be, and uh, the industry, there's construction, all this is growing, plus penetration is growing. So rentals got almost like two tailwinds behind it. So we've seen a lot of the whole industry has been growing for everybody, right?
yeah,
Which has been
yeah.
it's a good industry to be in, right?
And it'll be interesting to see what happens with prices continuing to go up. There's no question that tariffs are going to impact this. There's
Mm,
no question. I'm not exactly sure how it's going to impact the overall supply chain. We saw what happened during COVID when, places were shut down and they sent workers home. And when
mm,
that happens, because everything slowed down, so the production demand wasn't there, so they sent workers home. And when they asked to bring them back, when things really started picking up, they weren't there. We saw a lot of quality issues come out of that, and we saw
mhm.
serious delays in supply chain. So I don't think it's going to be anything as drastic as those times, but nevertheless, there's going to be supply chain disruptions as companies look for US alternative to source their products.
Mm,
There's going to be delays because there's a ramp up cycle. And we talked about folks and their willingness to work these days and their self
yeah.
motivation or lack thereof. There's not many people that want to do that kind of work. So
So you think that potentially the tariffs may put more pressure on the U.S. manufacturers, which could we may be in a situation back in 2021 when there's not enough equipment because people are sort of turned off to the foreign equipment because of the tariffs. Is that right?
I think it's going to impact the supply chain. Absolutely. I really
And
do. How
so
bad?
if you're you're good.
How bad? I'm not exactly sure. I'm not an economist, but
Yeah.
I do see it impacting the supply chain, which is going to delay throughput. It's going to delay the delivery of goods at some point. Right now, a lot of dealerships are sitting on inventory, so it's okay for right now. But
Mm.
when that turns back on, it's I foresee there being production delays, supply chain delays.
So if you're a rental company and you have equipment, if that happens, you'd be in a good position back to where it was, pre-COVID, right?
Yes, yes.
The other thing I think is interesting, I don't know, I'm not an economist, obviously. Let's have a podcast. Uh, but the big beautiful bill that passed on July 4th, we had an episode about this a few weeks ago, but
Right.
there's a lot of incentives for rental companies, including the bonus depreciation going from 40% to 100%, which creates more incentive for rental companies to invest into buying equipment. So you may have another tailwind with not only there's potentially shortages of equipment because of the tariffs, but people may be buying more equipment to have more tax write-offs, right? So now you putting more demand on something with potentially less supply, right? So I don't know. I'm not an economist, but you just kind of look and see what's happening, and it's not crazy to you kind of look at these cycles, and
Yeah,
we've been in this oversupply from an equipment perspective for the last few years. That may be shifting in the next 3 years because of those two things we just talked about.
absolutely. If you're a company that buys over the Section 179 threshold, I believe it's $2.5 million now. If
Yeah.
you're a company that buys equipment in excess of that, bonus depreciation is an amazing thing. It really is. It really helps manage the tax implications. No question. There's certainly incentive there.
Be interesting to see. So
Yeah.
we have our theories. We'll record this and see in a year where we're at, but it may be moving towards that world. Potentially not a lot of equipment. I want to talk about building in a niche industry. So the other thing, maybe another phrase, specialty in a sense. We've had other guests on the specialty or niche equipment rental companies get higher valuations. It's compared to the general tools groups, maybe a little bit different when you're competing with the nationals. But what's it like building in a niche part of the rental space? Has that been easier? Has it been harder? Is the reward bigger? Tell me about that.
Well, we talked a little bit about who we're calling on and the contractors, right? And being in a niche business, I'd say the mindset of the rental industry and our industry and the drilling industry is about 20 years behind general construction, the overall mindset.
Mm,
So there's some ground to cover there. But
hmm
really what it comes down to, that's the main difference. That's the main difference of being in that niche industry. But what we all have in common is you have to have reliable equipment, right? You have to be able to turn it around quickly when it comes off rent. You have to be extremely responsive. You have to execute like no other,
hmm
right? And you have to be that partner. We all share that.
hmm
We all share that. The Being in a niche business, there's a lot more education to the overall market that is required. And it's the why rent. It's educating them. Why rent? Why is there a benefit? Here's what we've seen other contractors be successful with rentals. Here's how we've seen them take their business from X number of dollars up to this in a short period of time. It's those case studies that really help. But that's what's needed. It's a lot of boots on the ground. It's not, and you can't just send off a nice LinkedIn post that talks about the benefits of renting versus true acquisition. It's a lot of boots on the ground talking to
Interesting.
folks.
So you feel like special equipment, you're having to convince people more about why you even need to rent and begin with. More general rental, people already know that in a sense. Is that right?
Most contractors do. Most
Yeah.
contractors truly understand that and embrace the rental aspect. In our industry, it's a little bit different. That's just our industry. It wouldn't apply to all niche rental companies, I'd
Mm.
say. I don't think it's not a one size fits all, but it certainly applies to our industry.
So when you mentioned the LinkedIn post isn't driving traffic, of course, to
Yeah.
your end user, but I'm not sure this podcast will, maybe it will, but, what is working? Is it, getting out in the field? Do you guys have an outbound sales team? Like,
We do.
what is the process looking like to actually get in front of people with the right message? Is it just a lot of reps? Is it more targeted? What's working for you guys?
All of the above. It's more reps, it's more boots on the ground. It's we have to get out there. We have
Yeah.
to get out there. We have to get in front of folks, and every time we have the ability to do that, it's extremely powerful because every time we go on site, there's always something that we can help with.
Mm,
Always. And that we can deploy our field service team out on. The driller can call our technical support in-house
mm,
here. We can walk them through a challenge that they have with you know,
mm.
their computer, their safety system, whatever it is. There's things that we can talk them through over the phone too. But until they know that we have that behind us and we have that team behind us, they're gonna keep running and they're gonna keep having to hold this lever just right in order to get this to work. Right? Because that's just you do what you do to survive and get by and get the job done.
Do you find the face-to-face interactions have been more important than the phone call? Like, does that actually help a lot with the close rate and getting new customers?
It's extremely helpful. It's extremely helpful. It 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 shows you're there, right? So you took the
Mm.
commitment to be there, and there's no better way to build a relationship and form that bond and demonstrate who you are, the trust. It's just there's no better way to do that than getting in front of somebody. It's extremely important. Now, probably more now than ever.
We've been talking about that recently with other groups, and I think, at some point 15, 20 years ago, it was like these emails that it's personalized, and now we've got so overboard. You probably get 1,000 texts, phone calls. You can't even know, it's a robot, and it doesn't mean anything. So now almost face to face is like, it's like vintage and it's back because no one
Yeah,
does it anymore. Nobody does it.
exactly. It really is. It really is. Everybody's email is getting flooded. Everybody's LinkedIn's getting flooded. So the best
Do you
way to
do you find like like it actually is a differentiation to show up on site? Like that is something that not every competitor is even doing.
no, you
Which is
can
funny because
certainly
20 years ago, that was the only thing, right? That was all it. And now we kind of went towards too much towards technology that like to stand out now is actually what everyone used to do 20 years ago.
absolutely. Yeah, we're back to where we were, and I don't see it changing. Quite frankly, there's more people that I know that their emails are so cluttered that if they look at their text messages,
Mm.
if you need something from them, don't send me an email. Send me a Teams or send me a text message. That's the quickest way for me to respond because otherwise I have to filter through 300 emails a day.
Yeah. But there's not 300 people showing up in your office every day
No,
or the job site, right? So that is how you get to the front of the line. And when you guys show up, are you there to bring a box of donuts and drop your card off? Or are you there, hey, here, how can we help you guys today? What's your issue with your equipment? How can we help? Is it more of the latter?
no, we show up. We typically have some swag with us and got some really cool swag that we give. And absolutely, if it's break time, bringing coffee, we're bringing something
Yeah.
definitely. But the goal is to add value to the visit. There's like I said, there's always something that we
Mm.
can handle on a site. Always. Even if it's just making a call into the parts team and getting a part sent to them that they need that they haven't been able to call their office to try to track down. So even if it's something as simple as that, there's always ways that we can add benefit to that business that's going to improve the driller's day.
As a technology person myself, I like technology, of course, but I also see the limits. And I think we've reached that in a lot of, especially in the sales perspective. Like we need more face to face interactions out in the field. And I think the rental companies that are doing that right now, it's almost like blue ocean because most people aren't doing it. It's hard. It is hard. It's easier to sit in front of your computer and drink your iced coffee. A lot harder to get out in the field, but getting out in the field is what actually is making a difference right now.
Completely agree with you. Completely agree with you.
I want to talk. Last topic here is the future of rental utilization, data, uptime. Tell me about where that's moving, and maybe even the importance of having systems, right? And why, like, if you are scaling, why you kind of need to understand where your data is and how things are operating.
Yeah, we've learned we have a system in place. I'd call it a legacy system. It's a system that we've had for, you could argue, too long. 15 years for any system is too long, most likely. And we've seen some limitations as we deploy more units out into the field, into the wild, and we rely more on trusted third parties to store the equipment, repair the equipment, keep the equipment at their facility until we have a rental within that area or that region, right? You lose track of where things are at, what step are they along in the process, how many days is it to get the rig back out deployable in the field. You lose visibility to that versus being able to look out the window and look at all the machines and you have a side that's all the completed machines with or green cones on them versus the other side that has red cones on them to distinguish
Mm,
they're not ready.
mhm,
It's you lose visibility when machines are scattered. Our systems and processes is a focal point within our organization right now. It really is because I can't see how we're going to continue to scale without the right systems. It's this your systems and processes are your foundation. They really are. If you don't have that, you don't have a foundation to build on.
mm.
So systems
Eh,
and keeping an eye on the data is extremely important.
yeah, and I think, there's some rental companies who don't have any systems, and I think a lot less, a 15-year-old system is better than no system in a sense. Where
Sure.
do you think, like, technology can add the most value if you kinda go to the future of 2030, 2035? Everyone's talking about AI, but, like, where do you think technology can improve to really help rental companies run their systems and be a better system themselves?
The way that I see it, if a system can tell you your overall cost of ownership, your utilization, how much time it spends in the shop compared to other aspects that you have in your fleet, right? Those are decisions that managers need to know and decision makers need to know because
Mm,
that's going to tell you, is this a rental asset that we really want? Cost
mm,
of ownership is the highest, its utilization on a micro level. So you might look at a class of equipment, right? But on a micro level, how is this performing? Well, the support that we get from the OEM is way slower than other OEMs. The parts, we don't get discounts on parts. That's increasing our cost of ownership. When it comes in, the turnaround time is typically 2 weeks higher than all of our other equipment, right? So those are decisions, those having those data points will tell you maybe this is the wrong line. Maybe this is not a piece of equipment or a subset of the market that we really need to focus on.
mm.
Having the insights and the systems to tell you that level of detail is really what's going to help rental companies, in my opinion. I know it would certainly help us.
For sure. I mean, if you're spending millions of dollars on fleet, like, getting 1% more efficient because you have data who's making recommendations on what to buy or sell or what the price. I mean, that's profit straight to the bottom line, right? And I think rental companies is a combination of using the data. Obviously, you got to be out in the field and kind of see the equipment, know your customers. But the extreme version, the way extreme, which I don't think the rental industry should move towards fully, but maybe more that direction was, when I was at Uber, they ran the whole business off spreadsheets and computers. Like, to the point that, like, I was like, do we need to go talk to the drivers? Because I want to make sure there's actually cars driving around because, like, we're just
Yeah,
looking at maps and data and algorithms. And, that's the extreme version of where it could be. I think they missed sometimes, like, hey, should we go ask the drivers what they think about this new thing we're doing? And, they almost got too far into the analytical side. But you kind of think about if that's the extreme of where rental companies are, where the technology is today, like, I think we could move more in that direction, right? And have the technology do the work for you, do the work that you didn't have time to do or don't want to do.
exactly. Yeah, the as you expand your kind of your sales arm and your team that's out making, meeting those drillers, meeting the contractors, right? We talked about the importance of having more of that now versus sending emails and making phone calls. The team out in the field needs real-time data. If
Mm,
they don't have it on their cell phone, they
mm,
need to say, "Hold on. Let me go make a call into the office. Is that person in the office tied up in a meeting? Are they out in the yard? Are they with a customer? Right? You don't have real time information. You can't respond quickly to request. You're dependent. The What you respond to the customer is dependent upon what information you can get over the phone, if you can get it right then and there.
Right
It's
then
not a
there. And
it,
if you're on your phone and you're on a server, you're not getting that information. I think that is for me is where think AI plays a role. These AI agents people talk about, they're doing work for people that we didn't have time to do. So all these reports you're spending time running, the agents could be running that in real time. So you're with a customer, you know exactly the right data point at the right time, rather than even we're talking about having a system with this data, which every rental company needs to get to, and not everyone has. The next level above that is like knowing the right insight at the right moment and having these agents do all that analysis for you. I think that'll be the next journey as we kind of go into this next wave of technology.
I agree with you. I agree.
It's exciting times.
It
Well,
is.
Jake, thank you for coming on today. Last question I like to ask everyone: best career advice you've gotten that's helped shape your success. You've been CEO. You've been at RigSource 13 years. Best career advice you've gotten.
Uh, wow. I don't know if it's you mentioned Nick Saban, and I love listening to his how he talks to his teams and
Yeah,
his players. I guess I'll just say this. I heard this several years ago, and it just stuck with me. I repeat it in my head so much that I have it memorized, so I'll share it. Uh, it's a sermon that he gives at the beginning of every season, and what he says is if you want to be happy for an hour, eat a steak. If you want to be happy for a day, go play golf. If you want to be happy for a week, go on a cruise. If you want to be happy for a month, buy a new car. But if you want to be happy in your life, ask yourself one question. If I didn't show up here today, would anybody miss me? Because that's how you know you've achieved something of significance.
mm,
And what I get from that is always being the best you can be,
mm.
no matter what. Good times, bad times, always give it your all.
People are counting on you. I think the PG version would be would anybody miss my ass? Is I think what he actually
Yeah,
said, which I appreciate
yeah,
because I know exactly what you're talking about. I've seen that many times,
yeah,
and I think the bigger question is how can I be of service to others, right?
yeah,
And if you're being of service to others, people are relying on you and counting on you, and I love that. Nick Saban. I'm a Clemson football fan, so we had a rivalry for a little bit. But
yeah.
I mean, what a great leader,
Oh, amazing.
took care of his people. But they were like, look, we're here to perform. We're not a family. We're a team, and a lot of success and changed a lot of people's lives. So I'm a big Nick Saban fan. I got those quotes in my brains, every once in a while too.
100%. They're extremely impactful, right? I mean,
Yeah.
let's be honest, high performing employees and they're athletes.
Mm.
They're no different than an athlete. They want to perform. They want to win.
Hmm.
So creating that winning culture and what it takes to be a winning culture, there's a lot that can be learned from Nick Saban. A lot.
That's right.
Yeah.
Well, maybe Nick Saban will listen to this and give me a shout. But I
That'd
appreciate
be
you coming
great.
on today, Jake. Awesome episode.
Hey, thanks a lot, Kyle. Thanks for having me. It's been great.